You're listening to Last Hit News on the .P network.
Hello and welcome to our first real episode of Last Hit News. I am your host, Roland, sitting here with my co-host, Cyphus.
Hello, everyone.
And we are going to talk about Mars Dota League 2016.
That's right. But first, we should probably talk about what this show is going to be going forward. We've been getting a lot of feedback recently over the past few weeks about a lack of pro Dota coverage on the .P network. And what we'd like to try to do is, as noobs ourselves to the pro scene, we were noobs to Dota when we first started all of this. Now I feel like we're still kind of noobs to the pro scene.
We're not good at Dota necessarily, but I'm good with my eyes and understanding items, builds, and how things move, and also deciphering information. Thank you, college.
And enjoying Dota 2.
Exactly.
And enjoying Pro Dota 2, more importantly. So what we're going to try to do is delve a little bit more into the Pro Dota 2 scene. We're not going to bring you crazy in-depth analysis, but we're going to try to bring you very short, concise, and consistent news about what's going on in Dota.
Yes, so expect a weekly show, whether a tournament is going on or a tournament is off. We will be bringing you news that is related to the pros, because we do realize that this is an area that .P does lack at the moment. And we thought, instead of saying we're not good enough, just do it, damn it.
Right, and it's been fun even just delving this much into, because the roster shift after TI6 was crazy. It
was talk of the town, and we weren't talking about it.
Right. And it was all over the place. And I realized, and honestly, it almost felt overwhelming. But as we started to kind of just dig into it here, and even just looking at, hey, all right, let's break down the rosters for the teams that are just at MDL.
Yes.
And even just learning that and kind of delving into that, I felt like, oh, this is something that I can grasp. This is something that I can take on. So what Roland and I are going to try to do going forward is analyze the pro scene where and when we can. As frequently as we can, and provide just short, concise news about tournaments when they're happening, and when they're not happening, try to just bring you a little bit of whatever the pro Dota news is that's going on around the web, and maybe take a look at holes in our knowledge.
Definitely.
In the Dota 2 pro scene that may be holes in your knowledge, or maybe they're not holes in your knowledge, but you can help us and help correct us along the way.
We're going to try and leave as much opinion off the table as possible, seeing as we can't play at a 9K level. Right. We're going to be watching with our eyes and talking with our mouths, and you're going to be hopefully listening with your ears.
So I guess to caveat all of that, all of the opinions you do here we admit are couched in our very basic understanding of things going forward. But we're going to try our damnedest to overcome all of that and to provide the best analysis and at least news and updates that we can.
All right, let's get started.
So first and foremost, you want to pull that up there for me, sir? We're going to do a preview of the upper bracket. The group stage wrapped, and the first game on the docket is going to be, the first series on the docket is going to be Newbie versus OG. The new Newbie roster consists of UU9, Faith, Kaka, KPI, and SCCC. They were the Group A upper bracket winners. They went 2-1 against Secret, 2-0 against MVP Phoenix. And I don't know, you and I were kind of talking, this is a brand new newbie roster. This is not the newbie that won. This is nowhere resembling at all the newbie that won TI4.
Just the name. The name, and this is something that I learned, and maybe a lot of you already knew this, but I did not know that not a single member on Newbie Now was on the newbie team that won in TI4. That won TI4. So
things move fast in esports.
Things do move fast, and that's why we're trying to cover things as quickly as possible. So we thought in our research it was interesting to find that not a single person from the original roster exists.
So they're going to be playing OG in that first series with the latest roster being S4, Jerax, Fly, Anna, and No Tail. We were doing a little bit of research on Anna, who's kind of new to the pro scene in general.
The pro scene. Excellent player. We'll definitely get into some notables with Anna, and definitely go over one of the more interesting games in the series for sure later on in this segment.
So OG was the Group B lower bracket winners. They went 2-0 versus IG, 1-2 versus EG, and then managed to take 2 more games off of poor IG in the lower bracket finals. So right now OG's 4-0 versus Invictus.
Yeah, IG Vitality is what this is. They're not looking so good in respect to OG. OG has beat them 2-0 in 2 series.
in MDL.
Yeah, in MDL, IG just cannot figure out what the hell OG is doing. We know that there's a lot of Bat Rider going around with a really high win rate at MDL, which really high win rates means
I was
pretty high
surprised to
ban
see
rates.
so much OD.
OD coming
so far.
back, but it makes sense with PA being as popular, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, that's just coming from me, but if I want to beat a PA, I'm thinking OD is a pretty good way to do that.
I don't know. I thought it might have to do more with the popularity of strength offlaners.
Very possibly. Low mana pools, easy to
low ints. More importantly,
not really escape heroes necessarily. They can,
that was kind of my take on why it was so popular, especially with OG. I mean, we're seeing OD is a hero that OG is very concerned with controlling, and we'll kind of get into this at the end of this episode, but. When we discuss our favorite series that we've seen thus far.
Yeah.
But OG has been about making sure that they get their hands on OD or they ban him.
Yes. So there's maybe some secret out there, some secret build, some secret way with Outworld Devourer,
I'm gonna start
Obsidian
playing a lot
Destroyer.
of OD. That's all I know.
All I know is that it's been really impressive, and we're starting to see as this patch is coming to a close, as we all know. I think Valve may be waiting to release 6.89 for the end of MDL, which is October 2nd. That is just complete conjecture coming out of my mouth right now, but I would like to think they wouldn't switch up a patch right in the middle, especially of a pretty big tournament.
A premier event, certainly.
Professional is what this is under. This isn't.
But I mean, I just mean
it's a big event.
It's one of the larger.
Definitely
one of the more notable teams. But
for 2016, especially for the latter bit of 2016.
That other match in the upper bracket finals, or the upper bracket, the other preview match is one that we see quite a bit. It feels like
definitely we do. So another thing, Jerax being a new member of OG.
I was trying to segue you over to the next one.
Well, I do want to take a little bit of time on Jerax and something I saw recently with Matumbaman. Watching them play on Twitch and Matumbaman mentioning that this guy is best Earth Spirit, godly hair, great person, nicest guy you could play with, and god damn it, did we see some great Earth Spirit play coming out of Jerax. I don't think there's much argument to be said that as far as tier 1 teams go, he is most comfortable on Earth Spirit. Based on what I've seen so far, and just the shit he pulls off boggles my mind. So we're moving on to our second series that we're going to see, which is going to be
in the upper bracket.
In the upper bracket, which is Secret versus Evil Geniuses. This is definitely one of the bigger and more notable,
probably the more hyped game,
probably the more hyped game
series.
These are two teams that we've all come to love. EG winning TI5, obviously. Secret expected to win TI5, then expected to do better than they did, then didn't really do anything. But now we're seeing a really solid and stable Secret, and something like an EG missing Fear and missing PPD, aka the Mad Genius for Evil Geniuses. So,
but still, both he and Fear on in, if not managerial roles, Fear's on in a coaching role.
Fear's on in a coaching role. PPD is transitioning into a management role, realizing that the lifespan of a Dota 2 player may be short-lived, and he should think about his future.
I mean, are there statements out from him saying...
That's me paraphrasing, but more or less he's getting into management, understanding that he can't play at that tip-top level like these players need to be playing at forever. And that's a very realistic argument, in my opinion, and very, very mature and smart, especially coming from AKA Salt Lord or Salt Man. I disagree with most of those statements. Every time I've ran into PPD, he's been a very nice person. But the new roster for Secret, the only two remaining people that we would recognize would be Pylai Dai and our captain Puppy. And then we have MP, or Mental Protector, Forev, and Mid 1. Interesting tidbit about Forev. He is now on Secret as of August 16, the big roster change. But he used to be on MVP Phoenix. And guess what Secret did? They knocked MVP Phoenix into the lower bracket. So Forev took his team that took 5th and 6th place, making the same amount of money in the International 2016. He knocked his own team out just what, a month to almost 2 months later? About 2 months later?
Well, no, about a month later.
With some pretty incredible play. I will say that Secret hasn't looked this stable for at least a year, in my humble opinion. I really like where they're going. I know they're getting called.
I feel like it's kind of ridiculous.
I know
to say
it is.
Secret and stable in the same sentence.
It does feel that way as being like an observer of the scene, but they're being called SEA crit or because a lot of their players, 3/5 of their players, are coming from Asia and Southeast Asia. So. Being mental protector for Ev and mid.
So they were the Group A lower bracket winners. They went 1-2 versus Newbie, unfortunately, and then went 2-0 versus LGD, and then 2-1 against MVP to cinch that lower bracket final. Yeah,
so they cinched the Group Group A lower bracket winners. So the group bracket, much like every other group bracket you're going to see, there's a lower bracket, higher bracket. That's how you seed in. Moving on to EG, this is probably one of the cooler narratives, is Crit taking the captain role. Arteezy and Sumail, there's been a lot of talk about Arteezy and Sumail, and if they can jive, I guess is the best word to use, is that, Arteezy and Sumail, both incredible players. There's nobody that can argue that. Was
Sumail that were clashing when Arteezy made his last comeback to EG?
They didn't publicly say they clashed, but I think it was public opinion that Arteezy and Sumail didn't necessarily work great together, and they didn't have great results together. But that doesn't mean there were other reasons at play. So far from what we've seen from EG is great knowledge on other teams. They know what to ban, and we'll get into this later. Yeah. They know how to play.
What we're seeing from the TI6 lineup there is Universe, Zai, and Sumail are still hanging around. Crit filling in for PPD in the captain role, and Arteezy coming over and replacing Fear.
Replacing Fear's carry. I know Fear went back to like a semi-4 position or something like that for a little while.
He was only doing that when Arteezy was on the team.
Yeah, when Arteezy came back, and then left and back and left and back, and so the yo-yo of EG hopefully will stabilize, and we'll just let that yo-yo sleep in air.
Well, I mean, you can say that, but they also. I'll say it felt like they remained relatively stable. It was always one person that was kind of coming in and out of EG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, Universe, we can't deny that Universe did leave EG for Secret and now is back on EG. Sumail really, on this draft, is the
most
only
stable
he's
EG
the most
player.
Well, Zai had to leave for school, of course. Sumail has been on EG for the longest consecutive amount of time,
right?
Of anybody on the roster right now. Yes, Arteezy has been on EG 99 times now. Universe has been on EG forever, but did switch off. They did win the Group B upper bracket winners. They took They went 2-1 versus VG, 2-1 versus OG.
Cinch the upper bracket.
To cinch the upper bracket.
So I guess the big narrative I want to talk about before we move on to the lower bracket preview here real quickly is the Fly V crit. Because that's, Crit leaving OG, now arriving on OG. And, spoiler alert, the big series that we're going to talk about coming up here is the OG EG series. And it was tense. I mean, and I know that it wasn't the big.
I really want to get into that on its own separate thing. I know this is notable, guys. I understand OG EG upper bracket for Group B was an incredible series. If you haven't seen it, watch it. But that is a big narrative. Also, we kind of touched on Newbie not having a single member from the TI4 champion squad. And no more PPD Fear. It's tough, but EG, god damn it, do they know how to get good players and have them work well with one another. I've been just so impressed with watching EG. I thought EG would come in and kind of just fall to the wayside with, it'd be hard to have some guy that beat you a bunch of times come in and then start to captain you. You know what I mean? and it looks like Crit is definitely checking his 2-time major winning ego at the door and saying, hey, let's make another squad that can win another major.
They're looking strong. Let's go into the lower bracket real quick before we have to wrap the show up here. You want to take this first game, the first series preview?
So our first lower bracket game we're going to be seeing is MVP Phoenix and Vici Gaming. Vici Gaming not doing so well, but we'll go over the roster on MVP real quick. We've got Dubu, Velo, Ryson, Febi, and QO. Febi is, I think, probably one of the favorites there on MVP Phoenix. He is a great support player. I think argued one of the better Rubik players in the world. QO, we saw an impressive PA at TI6, if you recall that, where QO took that PA and just made a hero that we all thought was garbage meta. And now we're seeing PA everywhere.
Yeah.
So in the lower bracket, they took the Group A finals. They were the Group A final losers. So they didn't lose all their games. They went 2-1 versus LGD, but they did get beat by both Newbie 2-0 and Secret 2-1. That Secret series is definitely one to watch. It was a really good series, but Secret did cinch it, which, going back to upper bracket, Secret's doing a damn good job. Moving on to Vici. Vici's roster is FY, Yang, DDC, and Ghost. If you remember Korean Barbecue, how could you forget him? Wonderful person. He says Ghost is somebody you need to look out for. Ghost is somebody that is an incredibly talented player. I could see it just in the games that I watched. Unfortunately, Vici didn't do well at winning very often, but that doesn't mean we've seen so many upsets.
They lost every series they played, right?
We're talking group stage though. We don't know. They're figuring out what other teams are doing. Maybe they didn't understand.
Well, they lost to EG 2-1, and then to Invictus 2-1 as well.
Yeah, Invictus Gaming. And I think that 2-1. Vitality, IG Vitality. So
I mean, they managed to take a game in both series at least.
Yeah,
so
they did take a game.
They don't look that weak.
Well,
they're definitely weaker teams, it appears, in this lower bracket.
There's not too much notables there. I would definitely suggest watching the EG game where they are able to take a game off EG. That's a really interesting game. Check that out. The IG games are interesting as well. They take a game off that. But now we move on to what is, in my opinion, the weakest team for Mars Dota League, LGD.
So LGD and Invictus Game are going to be playing each other in the second lower bracket series. LGD is sitting with a roster of Yao, Xiao8, Mr. Luke AL, Super, and Monet. They were the Group A losers. MVP beat him 2-1, and then Secret beat him 2-0. So a single game is, I think, all they've managed to take.
And what is the reoccurring theme here? We're seeing Secret and EG winning and winning and winning and winning. No wonder they're in the upper bracket, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how it goes, right? That's how math works.
Yep, that
right?
is.
To
point out the obvious.
So the IG roster is Super Dogfights, In July, Uno, and Mars C. They were the lower bracket Group B finals losers. So they lost to OG 2-0. We mentioned that earlier. They managed to beat VG 2-1, and then they had to go bump up against OG again and lose that again.
And it was 2-0, and it was convincingly 2-0 in my opinion from watching those games. I mean, IG and LGD I would consider probably the weaker, but Vici also pretty weak, looking pretty weak so far. But this is just group stage where we're at right now. So people figure things out, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And nobody plays.
Secret went 17-0 in group stage once. I mean, you know, and look what happened to them in
you're talking about TI5 specifically.
Yeah, I'm talking about TI5. So.
I mean, yeah. So who knows? Who knows how it kind of shakes up from here? But I think it's also worth noting that those performances are usually pretty good predictors of who's going to do what going forward. Even still, it's hard to, admittedly. So like when you look at Invictus, when you look at IG specifically, you know, it's hard to judge them too harshly because twice they had to go up against OG. You know what I mean? Twice they had to go up against OG and get 2-0'd.
And I think we're looking at three giant contenders, and it's funny that I thought I'd be surprised by it, but I guess I'm not. But OG, EG, Secret looking by far the strongest, and I mean I know MVP. Who else am I missing up there? Newbie's up in the upper bracket. I don't feel like they're playing at the same caliber that
you don't
OG,
feel like Newbie is.
I don't feel like they're playing at the same caliber that OG, EG, and Secret are. I mean, yes, Newbie's been able to take games off of all of them, but not all of them, but a few of them. But they just seem to have each other figured out so well. That's what the reoccurring theme with EG and OG.
I don't know. I think Newbie went 2-1 against Secret, and then admittedly, sure they went 2-0 against MVP, but MVP doesn't look.
And then
MVP doesn't look that weak for a lower bracket team.
MVP is definitely the strongest lower bracket team. I think it was probably an upset to a lot of people that MVP even lost to Secret in the lower bracket finals in.
And that was a 2-1 game.
Yeah.
So, and then you look at them. You look at Newbie. Newbie went 2-1 against Secret. I don't know.
It's really hard. It's really a hard toss up. I think we can say without a doubt that OG, EG are the teams to watch right now.
No, I disagree. No, I get what you're saying. I get why you want.
I'm Western
that to be
biased.
OG. I know, right? And I think
Western
that
biased.
may be coming into play a little bit here. I think you're dead wrong about Newbie. You're talking about
okay. You've got 2 minutes. Explain yourself.
Newbie 1 beat Secret. Don't forget that Secret's only your precious team Secret. I don't know why they're still your precious team Secret. They don't resemble anything of what they used to be at all.
They like to change things up and tangentialize.
Right.
Why do you think I like?
There we go. So your precious team Secret only made it to the upper bracket in this series after going through the lower bracket group stage finals.
and barely making it through MVP
and they're
Phoenix.
there because of Newbie.
Yeah.
So I don't think I completely disagree with you that Newbie looks that weak, and then they look super strong up against MVP.
But you keep saying MVP. Guess what? MVP lost Forev, and guess where Forev is? On Secret.
Sure.
So it's like if you.
But it obviously didn't. They
beat MVP Phoenix.
They still beat MVP and they still beat Secret. So maybe Forev isn't the key to their victory. I don't know.
So you're gonna. So are you? What placement?
I'm gonna predict with the Newbie OG. I'm tempted to say that Newbie might take that.
Okay, I'm going to semi-agree with you. Here's the thing. The reason I agree with you is that we haven't seen them clash yet. We have yet to see a Newbie OG game in MDL so far.
And in their new forms.
And OG seemed extremely prepared for EG. They knew what to ban. They banned it frequently. When something got through, it seemed like they were like, oh, fuck, that should have been banned. We should have not banned this. But it felt like there were just too many heroes that are playable and really good right now to ban everything. And they had to let a Kunkka through once. And then when it got let through, it got picked. And I mean, that kind of leads us into, the notable.
I think the series that feels like a little bit more of a toss-up to me is from the upper bracket is Secret and EG. I feel like Newbie. Personally, I feel like Newbie takes the. I think that they take the Newbie OG series. You think?
Yeah,
EG?
we might be seeing Newbie EG after this. It might be OG Secret dropping down into lower bracket. I know we're gonna see VG and LGD get knocked out in probably 7th, 8th.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think EG probably takes the Secret series as well. EG's looking really strong.
Well, and they've played together. I mean, Zai, Universe, Sumail have all played a lot of games together. And Arteezy and Zai are good
The same
friends.
argument could be made for the vast majority of the OG roster, though.
Vast majority. I mean, Fly and No Tail. I mean, Jerax, Anna, and S4 are all new additions. They lost 9,000 MMR OG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They lost a miracle, dude. So I don't know, but OG, Fly is still an awesome captain. Fly did some things on Oracle that were definitely super calculated as far as him using Purifying
No, you're right.
Flames.
I was thinking S4. For some reason, I was thinking S4 was...
No. S4 is seemingly the only person to make Tier 1 from Alliance, which... I hate to say it, but deservedly so. I think he is probably the best player on.
He was
the best player on Alliance. It's hard to say that he's not on Alliance. It feels like he's an honorary member of Alliance forever.
Sure,
but
no, okay. So you're probably right.
And
I think it's Newbie, and then I think it's EG in the upper bracket.
And if we want to talk
about S4,
I would
love to see
S4
EG
was on
OG.
Secret. I mean, S4 was on Secret and was the captain of Secret for a little while.
Yeah.
He took captain from Puppy for a little while and drafted. We're talking about a guy that he was one of the first to hit 8K back when 8K was an achievement. Now we have multiple 9Ks.
Sure.
But S4 is definitely somebody to look out for. Jerax, we all know it. We all got to meet him. He's super outgoing, super nice guy, great Earth Spirit, and I am done babbling on about this. Let's go ahead and let's talk about a notable game.
Yeah, so probably maybe the most notable game. So, all right.
Well, why don't you guys take a guess? Just give yourself 5 seconds and guess what we're going to pick here.
Well, I think that, so there are two notable series. If you're going to go back, if you're listening to this and you're going to go back and you're going to try to watch two notable series, there are a couple of top tier or upper bracket team clashes that would be worth taking a look at. We're going to really delve into the OG-EG series, so obviously we're going to mention that, but I do want to give one mention to the Newbie versus Secret series.
And this is Group A, Round 1. So this is the first game that Newbie and Secret clash. This is when I was saying Newbie looks weak, but Newbie did not look weak here.
No, it's one of those series.
I'm just saying weakest of the upper bracket, but I think you're changing my opinion just in a short amount of time. You're right. I forget.
Right, and I think it's worth to go and watch to see Newbie 2-0 Secret and realize the Secret is sitting there in the upper bracket with
And for a lot of Secret fans, they were probably like, oh, great, another iteration of Secret that sucks. You know what I mean? But no, Secret did take that loss with grace and make it to the upper bracket still.
Yeah, so I think that one's worth watching. But yes, the most notable series had to be that OG-EG. And maybe it was a little bit because of I know that for me at least, and I think for you as well, the fly crit thing is huge. Well, right?
I think even the Chinese scene is talking about, okay, all the Chinese teams went to the majors and they didn't win. No Chinese team won a major.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure about that because I know that 2 of the majors were just won by OG, and I'm who won the other one? Liquid.
Yeah.
Liquid. Okay, so yes, no Chinese teams won any of the majors. So of course the Chinese teams are thinking, okay, yeah, OG's a good team, although they're only 2/5 intact. But the Chinese teams do have to recognize S4. Jerax is another major winner, being on Team Liquid.
Sure.
And then, of course, the person that I'm forgetting, that I'm just going to move on and act like I know his name. We're going to talk about, the EG, OG, upper bracket finals game in the group stages, the series itself.
It's the trajectory of that. So if you don't want this series spoiled, if you are going to go back and watch it, I guess we've already spoiled it a little bit for you. But tune out now if you don't want any big details.
Yeah, if you don't want any big details, it's still
we're not going to cover any more news.
It's still great to watch. So no more news. Turn it off if you don't want to get this spoiled. But this is definitely the series to watch. It's brilliant.
That first game was so convincingly.
I want to talk about bans before we even get into this,
okay,
because there's a common theme in bans for each team. The common theme that EG is banning against OG is Drow Ranger and Elder Titan, and Kunkka. So Drow Ranger, Elder Titan, Kunkka.
I'm trying to remember what EG's bans were in their other series, though.
I'm probably pretty similar because Drow strats, right? We're talking Drow strats the whole time. While OG's like, no way are we giving Smell Storm Spirit, and in all 3 games they banned Storm Spirit, and in 2 of the 3 games they banned Bat Rider.
Yeah.
Bat Rider sitting at a 69% win rate, like we said. As it stands right now on September 29th, Bat Rider is at a 69% in MDL.
No, you're right. Those were very clearly targeted at
well, you
OG.
still see the Drow because Drow is scary, right? Nobody wants to play
what I
against
mean.
Drow
So
right
like looking over here at the EG versus VG series, we see EG's opening bans being Outworld Devourer,
and Bat Rider,
and Kunkka.
Still some Kunkka. And Kunkka is great because he's so versatile. He can core. I mean, we've got Attacker out there making these guides for Game Leap. We've got.
But I mean, so that Drow. I guess it's just important to note that yes, the Drow is still there.
A common theme,
but she's a second round ban for EG versus against Vici. It's interesting to note that the Drow was targeted against OG in these series by a Drow Elder Titan. The first 2 bans EG throws out every every series.
Another notable thing is Chinese teams banning Elder Titan pretty much against any team. Elder Titan isn't getting through. I don't know his ban rate off the top of my head. I don't have any information in front of me, but all I do know is that nobody wants to play against Elder Titan.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to Mr. Blue on saying Elder Titan will return. He has returned in such a way that people don't even want him in their games. So the common themes that we're seeing in bans is OG will not let them have Storm Spirit. They're saying, no fucking way are you getting Storm Spirit, dude. Also, Slark, that seems situational. And then after game 1, okay, let's delve into the games. Let's delve into the games.
So I'd rather talk, if you're gonna hit the common bans from OG that were targeted
common
clearly
picks,
at EG,
then.
The common bans from OG against EG were the Storm Spirit and the Razor. Those were the two heroes they did not.
Well,
want to
look
let
at
Sumail
S4's
get
Razor.
on.
S4 is famous for his Razor.
Oh, I assumed that Razor ban was targeted more at Sumail.
Sumail very well may have played it, seeing as, but Razor's kind of one of those picks that, I mean, I've seen S4.
You're talking about no. You're talking about EG. S4 is not on either of these teams.
So S4 is on OG.
Oh, on OG.
And they're banning Razor. So
right.
That
I mean, not on EG.
Yeah,
we're
he's
talking
not
about
on EG.
Sumail.
Yeah, so you're right. Arteezy has played it. Sumail plays a mean Razor. Razor's strong against strength heroes once again. If they want to pick an Ursa, you know what I mean? There's just a bunch of things that are there. Honestly, this is something that I don't want to insert my opinion on because I don't really understand it. I do understand why OG wants to ban Storm because Sumail is a madman on that hero, and we're starting to see a resurgence in Storm. Interesting picks throughout all 3 of these games before we go ahead and spoil them. Is Crit first picked IO every single time, every single game, all 3 games, and played it all 3 games. And in the first 2 games, picked Zai and Omni Knight. Despite their first game, OG crushing EG with a very convincing victory, where it's seemingly the IO did nothing except TPPA into top lane Rune and then get him killed. Like there was one moment where Crit grabbed Arteezy, brought him to the top Rune. Arteezy had an Aegis. Aegis pops. Arteezy gets back up. Arteezy dies. It just went to shit. It was bad. And everybody was thinking, oh God, they're not going to pick Io again. Yeah. And Crit was able to have that fortitude to say, no, I think Io's good. We got beat because this Ana guy is a fucking madman on this OD. Yes, No Tails Naga did great. Yes, S4's Earthshaker did great. Yes, Fly's Oracle was on point. Yes, Jerax's Earth Spirit was on point. But I think the player of that game sitting at something like 20-0 or 21 or not 20-0, 21-1 or 19-1 or 20-1 or something like that on an OD was pretty impressive. Yeah. The other notable thing,
I think the big thing is because we should probably wrap up here.
Yeah, we're
getting
close. We're getting close.
But the big takeaway just being that game was such a crush for OG. It felt like.
So if you don't want a series, if you just want a game, watch game 1. OG versus EG in the Group B finals.
That game is so necessary for the context of the other two, yes, you're right. We see those repetition of picks. We see OG still trying to control that Outworld Devourer by banning him.
They say if we're not going to pick it, you can't have it. Yeah, and then and you see the common theme of Oracle making it through. Oracle, they don't pick Oracle in game 3. It looks like they have something else up their they pick a Shadow Demon. Shadow Demon, obviously another great hero, a Purge hero.
But so EG manages to come back and win the next 2 in a row, which it's always exciting in a series when it comes down to a game 3. It just is.
And game 3, EG picks the Earth Spirit and wins with the Earth Spirit against Jerax. So that probably hurt Jerax a little bit to be like, don't take my hero and beat me with it, you bastards. No, definitely, this is the series to watch.
I'll say game 2 felt like maybe the closest of the 3, which is what made I think most of the rest of it so exciting.
It was closer than game 3
with a EG with a pretty convincing.
It was a shorter game, but it definitely felt more contended during the start. But the Huskar just got away. The Sumail's Huskar got away, and what Crit did differently this time is in game 1, OG ran an aggro tri-lane with Beastmaster, Io, Omni Knight, which was really cool, leaving Arteezy solo safe lane to get all that farm, dagger farm. He's safe. He has an escape. And then the LD went to double Midas, which that's just another notable thing. Double Midas, he had it finished by like 11 minutes. Sumail on the LD mid.
All right. I'm killing it. We already run too long. Folks, thanks for tuning in for the first edition of Last Hit News. Expect more of these as time goes on, and we'll try to wrap up.
The first real edition.
The first real edition. And we'll try to provide a little bit of wrap-up next Friday for MDL as it comes to a conclusion. And stay tuned to see what we do with Last Hit News going forward. So until next time, this is Cyphus for Roland saying good luck and God.